This is probably the most famous picture of a climber, frozen in time on the tallest mountain in the world. Mount Everest stands as a colossal wonder of nature. It's drawn humans to its slopes for thousands of years. It cast an unbreakable spell on climbers, dreamers, and adventurers alike. To reach its summit is the ultimate achievement, one that requires years of intense training and an unshakable drive. A place where even the smallest mistake can turn a dream into a final resting place. Over 200 bodies rest frozen along the trails, preserved perfectly by Everest's relentless Arctic cold.
Mount Everest, the world's tallest peak at 8,848 meters, stands as the ultimate symbol of human ambition and resilience. Known as Sagarmatha in Nepal and Komalungma in Tibet, Everest has drawn adventurers for decades, offering both unparalleled triumph and unspeakable tragedy. For women, the pursuit of this summit often carries additional layers of challenge, from cultural expectations to the physiological rigors of high-altitude climbing. Despite these barriers, many women have sought to etch their names in Everest's history, driven by a deep desire to test their limits, defy stereotypes, and achieve greatness. Yet, Everest's allure is not without peril. Its icy ridges, crevasse-laden glaciers, and oxygen-starved atmosphere create an environment as deadly as it is awe-inspiring. Over 300 climbers have perished on its slopes, and many remain where they fell, preserved in the eternal cold. For women climbers, the dangers are amplified by underrepresentation, lack of sponsorship, and societal pressures that often overshadow their remarkable feats. This chapter delves into the haunting stories of women who dared to chase Everest's promise of glory, but instead found themselves at the mercy of its ruthless embrace. Their tales embody both the heights of human courage and the depths of its fragility. The journey of women on Mount Everest is one of perseverance, courage, and breaking barriers. For decades, climbing the world's tallest peak was a pursuit dominated by men, but a handful of pioneering women dared to challenge societal norms and venture into the unforgiving heights. These trailblazers not only etched their names in mountaineering history, but also paved the way for generations of female climbers to come. In 1975, Junko Tabiai of Japan became the first woman to reach Everest's summit. Battling severe weather and an avalanche during her expedition, Tabiai's success was a milestone for women worldwide, proving that determination could triumph over both nature and cultural restrictions. Her achievement inspired countless others to dream of similar conquests. Others followed in her footsteps, including India's Bikendri Pal, the first Indian woman to summit Everest in 1984, and Pong Lama Sherpa, the first Nepali woman to reach the summit in 1993. Though her descent ended in tragedy, these women, along with many others, braved not only the physical dangers of the mountain, but also the societal doubts that questioned their resolve and capabilities. Their stories are a testament to human endurance and the unwavering spirit of women climbers. Mount Everest's summit push is the final and most treacherous phase of the climb. This section, above 8,000 meters, is known as the death zone for good reason. Oxygen levels are perilously low, and the mountain's volatile weather can change in an instant. For many climbers, ignoring weather forecasts or warnings from experts has led to fatal consequences. Women climbers striving to prove their mettle are often caught in this deadly gamble. The drive to summit, amplified by financial and emotional investments, can cloud judgment and lead to fatal decisions. Weather windows on Everest are notoriously short, and an unexpected storm can transform a triumphant ascent into a desperate fight for survival. One such tragedy was the death of climber Frances Arsentive in 1998. Determined to become the first American woman to summit Everest without supplemental oxygen, she and her husband pushed forward despite delays and deteriorating conditions. She reached the summit but succumbed to exhaustion and frostbite during the descent. Ignoring critical warnings can lead to overcrowding, frostbite, avalanches, and altitude sickness, which claim lives year after year. These heartbreaking stories serve as reminders that no summit is worth the ultimate price, even for the most determined climbers. Mount Everest demands a brutal toll on the human body, and frostbite is one of its most relentless punishments. In the extreme cold of the mountain, where temperatures can plummet to -40 degrees Celsius, -40 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, exposed skin freezes within minutes. Frostbite is not just a risk. It is an inevitability for climbers who underestimate the mountain's conditions or are delayed in the death zone. For women climbers, frostbite has often come as a cruel companion to their survival stories, and sometimes as a precursor to tragedy. Severe frostbite can lead to gangrene, necessitating amputations, or cause a systemic collapse as hypothermia sets in. Even those who survive the ordeal often face life-altering physical and emotional scars. The case of Yasuko Namba, a Japanese climber, highlights this grim reality. In 1996, Namba successfully summited Everest, becoming the oldest woman to do so at the time. However, during her descent, she was caught in the infamous blizzard that claimed several lives. Namba succumbed to frostbite and exhaustion, unable to move further. These stories reveal the razor-thin line between triumph and tragedy on Everest. Frostbite, though a common affliction, remains a deadly reminder of the mountain's unforgiving nature. Frostbite is one of the most feared conditions faced by Everest climbers. In the sub-zero temperatures of the high Himalayas, prolonged exposure to the elements can cause skin and tissue to freeze, often leading to permanent damage or the amputation of fingers, toes, or even entire limbs. For women climbers, who sometimes face additional challenges such as ill-fitting gear or insufficient funding for top-notch equipment, the risk of frostbite can be even greater. Frostbite is not just painful, it can be fatal. Climbers who suffer severe frostbite often find themselves immobilized, unable to continue the descent. With limited time, dwindling oxygen, and exposure to unrelenting winds, their chances of survival drop rapidly. Many climbers have made the heartbreaking decision to leave frostbitten teammates behind, prioritizing their own survival over rescue attempts. Survivors often recount how frostbite changed their lives forever, both physically and emotionally. For some women, the scars of frostbite serve as a testament to their bravery. But for others, they are a haunting reminder of the price they paid to stand on the roof of the world. These stories highlight the razor-thin line between triumph and tragedy on Everest. Women climbers face the same physiological risks as men, but often encounter additional challenges. Biological differences, such as generally smaller lung capacities, can make oxygen deprivation hit harder and faster. The psychological pressure to prove themselves in a male-dominated field may also push women climbers to forego supplemental oxygen, increasing the risk of altitude sickness or hypoxic blackouts. Hypoxia can manifest subtly at first: headaches, dizziness, and confusion, but its effects escalate quickly. Many climbers have perished due to poor decisions made under its influence, such as failing to turn back in deteriorating conditions. In some cases, climbers have simply sat down on the path and never risen again, succumbing quietly to the mountain's grip. For women striving to conquer Everest, oxygen deprivation remains an ever-present threat, a cruel reminder of nature's dominance over human ambition. The pursuit of Everest's summit often comes with heartbreaking sacrifices, none more haunting than the stories of climbers left behind to face their final moments alone. The brutal conditions of the death zone make rescue efforts nearly impossible, and when climbers falter, teammates are often forced to make a grim choice: risk their own lives to help or press on and survive. For women climbers, whose journeys are often laden with additional scrutiny and pressure to succeed, the reality of abandonment can feel particularly cruel. One of the most poignant tales is that of Frances Arsentive, an American climber who aimed to summit Everest without supplemental oxygen in 1998. She achieved her goal, but struggled during the descent, becoming incapacitated near the summit. Fellow climbers encountered her, frostbitten and fading, but were unable to carry her down. Frances spent her final hours alone, becoming one of Everest's most infamous lonely deaths. These tragedies highlight the stark truth of high-altitude mountaineering. Survival often takes precedence over camaraderie. For the women who dared to defy the odds and ascend Everest, the possibility of dying alone is a shadow that looms large, a somber reminder of the mountain's merciless nature. While Mount Everest is infamous for its high fatality rate, it is also a place where remarkable survival stories unfold. Many climbers, including women, have faced life-threatening situations but managed to beat the odds and descend to safety. These survivors carry not only scars of frostbite and oxygen deprivation, but also powerful lessons about resilience and human willpower. Beck Weathers, though not a woman, shares a story that resonates with climbers of all genders. Left for dead during the 1996 Everest disaster, he awoke from unconsciousness and staggered back to camp, defying all expectations. Women climbers, too, have had extraordinary brushes with death. Slovenian mountaineer Nevis Meroy, for example, has recounted her harrowing decision to turn back just shy of Everest summit due to dangerous conditions, a choice that likely saved her life. These stories often emphasize the importance of heeding weather warnings, using supplemental oxygen, and recognizing personal limits. Survivors advocate for mental preparedness and teamwork over blind ambition, urging future climbers to respect Everest dangers. Their close calls serve as a sobering reminder that sometimes the greatest triumph is simply surviving to tell the tale. Frozen forever, the unburied dead of Everest. Scattered across Everest's slopes lie the bodies of climbers who perished in their quest to reach the summit. Frozen in time, these individuals have become grim markers on the mountain, reminders of its deadly toll. Harsh conditions and extreme altitudes make it nearly impossible to retrieve these bodies, leaving many climbers' remains permanently exposed to the elements. Women climbers are no exception to this tragic reality. The body of Frances Arsentive, nicknamed Sleeping Beauty, lay on the mountain for years before her remains were respectfully moved. Others, like Hannelore Schmatz, the first woman to die on Everest's southern route in 1979, have become eerie fixtures along the climbing path. The unburied dead of Everest evoke a complex mix of emotions: sorrow, respect, and unease. For some, they are stark warnings of the mountain's power. For others, they are symbols of unyielding human ambition. Many climbers pass these remains on their journey, silently acknowledging the risks they themselves are taking. While efforts have been made to retrieve some bodies, the mountain often resists such attempts. The frozen dead remain where they fell, their stories forever intertwined with the unforgiving legend of Everest.